button is hit. I believe we are live. Sorry, guys, for the 30-minute delay. I'll explain in just a minute, but welcome to the Xbox 2 podcast. I am one of your hosts, Randall Thor 19, the man with the million, back again with the Xbox 2 podcast, and with me, as always, is the one and only Jez Corden of Windows Central. I thought it was Jez's fault. We weren't on time, but apparently it might have been my fault. What's going on, Jez?
Not bad. A little bit disoriented because I have missed several meetings today because of a certain country thinking it's okay to change all of its time zones randomly before everyone else does. So, what's that about, Rand? What is that about?
I'm sorry.
Can you apologize for all of America for me, please?
I totally forgot that daylight savings time ended, and yeah, the clocks move forward. So when I tweeted Jez, I DM'd him like, the podcast is supposed to start 20 minutes ago. He's like, no, it wasn't. Like, yeah, it was, but I guess it was my fault. So, sorry for the delay. We appreciate everyone sticking. I know a lot of people probably would have been like, the show's not happening, but it's definitely happening because we have a lot of stuff to talk about. I mean, E3 2020 canceled. No.
Shocker.
Digital event for Xbox incoming. Horizon Zero Dawn finally confirmed for PC. Oh, man. Oh, God, you hate to see it. You really do. This is just too funny for me.
No.
I'm sorry. This is just too funny for me. We'll talk about all this stuff. But obviously, before we get into that stuff, we got to talk about the games we've been playing, which we played a good one. But before we do that, make sure you guys do us a favor. Hit the like button on the show. Share it out on social media, Twitter, Facebook, wherever. And yeah, let's get into it, Jez. Ori and the Will of the Wisps. I'm assuming that's pretty much what I'm going to talk about. And I'm sorry that there's no gameplay this week. The only thing I've played is Ori, and I've been, playing it ever since I got it, like Saturday morning or whatever it was. And I didn't think it was fair to record 2 hours of the beginning of the game and have it looping on the podcast because, I mean, the game just came out today, and I didn't want to spoil anybody that haven't played it. Like, they didn't see the prologue and see how it starts, so I was just like, you know what? I didn't really capture anything else. I didn't play anything else, so sorry for the no gameplay. That should be back next week. But, Jez, what do you think about Ori, man? I did read your review. It was very good.
Thank you.
But it almost feels like it could have been much higher for you if it wasn't for a couple of reasons, huh?
Yeah, I think that's pretty much everybody's central criticism of the game was the polish or lack thereof, maybe. It's like, and I had people replying to me on Twitter, like some of the more extreme Xbox fanboys saying like, oh, the game is a day one patch. Are you going to change your review? And I'm like, well, actually, I tried the day one patch and it didn't fix a lot of my issues. And the day two patch hasn't fixed a lot of the issues either. So for my money, I think like my review still holds true even after a couple of patches, personally. I don't know how you feel about that.
I feel pretty much the same. But I will say, like, my God, is this game so much better than the first. I was a little concerned that combat would take away some of the focus of what I consider the core of Ori, which is the platforming. But it really didn't. I actually really enjoyed the combat. I found it a lot of fun, even when I was going to 100% it. And I'm at 99%, basically because I don't even know if you can get 100%. Because when you actually beat the game, it places you right before the final boss. You know, it like loads you right before that so you can go back and do stuff. So I've went and I've collected everything. I have all the health, all the energy. I found all the ore, so I did all those upgrades. I got all the shards. I got all the light canisters. So I have like I have 100% everywhere on the map, but my save file says 99%. Probably because you know what the game didn't give me? It didn't give me the achievement for beating the game, Jazz.
It didn't.
No.
You know why that is? It's because you had the save bug when you completed the game. Because the save bug also
so many times
blocks achievements.
Yeah.
Well, so when you've got the save bug, it blocks achievements from popping as well. So for those who don't know, there's a really nasty bug with Ori where the checkpoints stop working, and there's no warning either. So like you can go without a death for like 45 minutes and then die and then lose like all that progress. And the only way to fix it is to shut down the game and open it again. And they said that the patches have reduced the chances of it happening, but a permanent fix will come later. For those of us who were in the review period, it was pretty messy towards the end. Like I had to like restart the game at least 10 times in the last third of the game. Maybe more.
Yeah, I mean the tech stuff is but what did you love about the game? I know because you gave it a 9 out of 10. It probably would have been a 10. Stuff. But what did you like most about the game?
Well, that was the negative stuff. Like the negative stuff was the polish or lack thereof. But literally everything else about the game is just a cover to cover masterpiece. Like the way the combat, like you talk about how the combat doesn't detract from the gameplay. It's because it intersects really well with the platforming. Like you can do the combat in midair while you're traversing using bash and all these other abilities and stuff, and it's just so tight. It's so well done. It's so well thought out. All the combat mechanics and all the platforming mechanics like just weave so well together, and they come together with the music, which is dynamic and amazing.
Oh god, that score by Gareth Coker is absolutely ridiculous, man. Oh my god,
it's super good. It's like. I wrote in my review that like the soundtrack could stand out on its own right. Like there are some hooks in that soundtrack that are just so powerful and so well put together, and it's masterful. Like all the artwork and the gameplay and all that stuff is masterpiece level game design.
Yes,
but it's just like, man, if they just polished it up a little bit more, I would have given it a 5 out of 5. But like, I just could not gloss over that save bug, man. It was rough, and also like it's such great value for money as well. Like I was thinking about how Ori like costs $30 and it's on Xbox Game Pass. That's like absurd value considering how powerful of a game it is, and considering how infectious the gameplay is. Like it's better than a lot of these big budget AAA games in terms of like having a soul, you know.
That's definitely. I agree with that. I mean, you're talking about a game that it's funny we talk about the polish, but every other aspect of the game, like when you're seeing what's going on, when you watch Ori animate and how he animates as he's moving, and then you get on like a tree branch and you see that animate and everything moving in the background and the colors, the game just screams like the devs put their souls into this. Like it's a work of art. It's a work of love. And it's honestly probably like right up there as like like the best looking game I've ever seen. On like my TV with the way that game looks, absolutely gorgeous. Like every new area you go into, like all the different biomes it has. I saw that you used that word in your review, like the biomes, because there are kind of different biomes. Like one's kind of like a creepy spider cave, which that area was legit kind of really scary because the darkness would close in on you and kill you instantly.
And like
the sound,
it's called Moldwood Depths, right?
Yeah. Oh man.
And it's like in Moldwood Depths, like all the spikes are like insects clinging to the walls with sharp carapace shells stabbing you. It's like I didn't even notice it at first. I was like maybe a quarter of the way in, and I was just like, hang on a sec, the walls are alive. Like I didn't even notice. I was just like, my god, this is just crazy. And Rand, did you notice? And I don't want to spoil it. But did you notice after the resolution of Moldwood Depths that the music changed?
I did. Yeah.
And I was like, it's so subtle, but it's so powerful. And like when like that happens in a bunch of zones where there's like a resolution of a plot point, and the music of the whole zone changes to reflect Ori's effect on the zone. Like it's those kinds of little details that a lot of these big AAA Hollywood studios miss. They don't get them. They don't have them because the games are just sort of like they're running a list of checkboxes. Like we have to do this, we have to do this, and like some of the art gets lost. I think sometimes in some of these like sort of big budget AAA games, and that's like to be expected, right? When there's so many people working on it, and I don't want to take away from like some of these huge games because they're still an amazing achievement. But when you get these like Ori sort of more focused teams working on every little finer detail, I call it a Kojima-ism, right? It's like it's just special. And Ori 2 is like even like has all these bugs and stuff, and you know there's performance problems too, even on the X, like with hitching and stuff like that. Like it didn't take away from the memorability of the game. And it's like it's an experience that I'll really take with me fondly into next gen. And honestly, I don't feel like there are many experiences this gen that I'm gonna sort of be like, I'm gonna remember this experience forever, like there was in the 360 gen. Like in 360 generation, I can name like a bajillion games that sort of like had a big impact on me. You know, like your Mass Effects and your Dragon Ages and stuff like that. This gen, not so much. But Ori is one of those games for me. It's one of those games that it's an example of the top tier, top shelf of games this generation, in my opinion.
I mean, I agree. I definitely think it's Microsoft's best game this gen. I mean, I've talked about my love for the franchise. You're right. Like the experience of playing through the game and you know the story, which I'm not going to touch upon whatsoever, which you know you guys need to experience for yourself. But I said it in my review, and I'll say it again. This is a true sequel jump. They easily could have just did Ori 1.5 and been fine, and the game would have been great. But with everything they added, it's like, sure, you have the building blocks of Ori, right? You have the platforming, which is as good as ever. And you can even say it's better because they give you more moves, and the best thing about it is they give you those mobility moves, like they give it to you earlier in the game. So you basically have dash and you have double jump way earlier than you did in the first game, right?
Yeah.
So you're getting around the map much quicker, and then you add the combat on top of it, which, like I said, I was a little bit hesitant, but man, it was still like I'm 100% in the game. I'm still fighting enemies. I loved using the sword in tandem with the freaking hammer. That hammer is great. It has such weight behind it when you smash an enemy, right? My God,
like
it is
like,
fantastic.
you could use it to, you could use the hammer to destroy shields and break the beetles' shells and stuff like that. Gave it like a real sense of impact. Like I wrote in my review that the combat felt like the product of a studio that is a veteran of action RPG combat. Like it doesn't play like it's their first attempt at it, and I suppose it's not in a way because Ori 1 did have some limited combat, but the fact like it's got all the combos in there, like things like the upward swing and stuff like that, which knocks enemies up into the air, and then you can push them back into spikes, and it's just so dynamic.
Yeah,
you know. By the end of the game, I was just like, I just want more of this.
I do. I want more too, but I know they're making like something different, like a AAA RPG of some kind. But like this is, to me, it was like Uncharted 1 to Uncharted 2, or Mario Brothers to Mario Brothers 3, like that kind of game where
Mario Brothers 2 then.
Mario Brothers 2 not really a sequel though, and you know that, right? Like it was just the sequel is Mario Brothers 3. It's that kind of evolution, like all the different things they had, the combat, the shards, the side quests, which are, yeah, you could say the side quests aren't really much, but I thought they added a lot to the world building, the community that you're building up in Wellspring. Like, there's so much cool stuff here, but We have a couple questions. We got one from Gunstar. Ori as a career in TV film head. Agree. I guess that depends on Microsoft. They own the IP, so I think it's a great character and a great franchise. Hopefully we see it in future things. And as the Grounded Gamer, my buddy Fawn said, as a big Ori fan, which a lot of people here are, should I wait to play it until it's fixed? Because this is the other question I had that I wanted to kind of discuss, Jez, like reviews and stuff. So, like, when you're... I recommend the game regardless. I think it's a masterpiece. I said I would have given it a 10 because that's how I felt. Like, I'm not one of those people that say a 10 is a perfect game. I don't believe any game is perfect. But then again, at the same time, if you're using a 10-point scale or a 100-point scale or a 5-point scale, whatever skill you use, but then you say, because the game's not perfect, I'll never use 5, 10, or 100, well then what's the point of having it? Like, if you're never going to use the 10, why are you using a 10-point scale? You're basically on a 9-point scale. So for me, a 10 can be a flawed game. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just is a masterpiece, right? So like God of War and Red Dead Redemption 2 are masterpieces, in my opinion. Of course, I always got to add that because people get like, I don't agree with that. And that's fine. You can have your opinion about stuff. I'm sure there's people out there that think Sea of Thieves is a masterpiece and would give it a 10. But, I'm not going to, argue with you. That's your opinion. I honestly think Ori 2 is a masterpiece and everybody should play it. And it's cheap enough, like Jess says. It's $30. It's in Game Pass. So, like, if you just want to get it for $1 or whatever, you can do that. But man, my experience with the game was negatively impacted by the stuff I experienced because I was playing it early, right? And I tried, like, the frame rate problems wasn't a big deal to me. Like, the frame rate stutters and freezes, those happened maybe 8 times. Like, I was keeping track. It didn't affect my enjoyment of the game. And even when I hit the first save bug, I was like, not that big of a deal. I only lost 10 minutes of progress, whatever. But I hit that save bug like 7 times, and I ended up losing hours of progress to the point where I started getting annoyed and frustrated. You know what I mean? Like, it's like, oh, it happened again? Oh, it happened again? And I was like, I had to beat a boss 3 times, because when I would beat the boss and get control of Ori again, I couldn't do anything. The only thing I could do was force quit the game, and I would be at the checkpoint before the boss. So I was thinking to myself, and Xbox PR was saying, hey, keep in mind, the patch is coming. It's going to fix all these things. And people were saying, well, hopefully the reviewers wait, because if they review the game, the consumers that are playing it aren't going to, we're essentially not playing the same version as other people, or the people that are playing in the future, which is why I gave it what I gave it. I said, it's a 10 without the glitches, and then the experience for me was 9. I mean, I don't want to say that, right? But how do you feel about that, Jez? About, like, I'm gonna ask you this. Should they have waited to send out review codes until the day 1 patch was out? And then all the journalists and all the media could have gotten their reviews on the final version? Should they had the final version available in advance so reviewers could have played that with enough prep time? Or should everybody have waited? Like, what's the right way to go about this? Because even now, with a bunch of patches, you go read the official thread on Era. I read some comments here and there. Some people are having a good experience. Some people aren't. Some people are getting game-breaking bugs. Some aren't. Some people's consoles are crashing all the time. Some aren't. It doesn't seem like everything is fixed. And some are playing on PC, and that has an audio issue. It's this. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's one of those things where it's like, you can't. I don't know. I don't even know what I'm trying to say. But I
think maybe this could be. Because remember, Moon's a pretty young studio, right? Maybe this can be like part of a learning experience and stuff like that. I don't think the bugs are necessarily going to hurt the game in any sort of large sort of way. Because like it's still sitting above 90 on Metacritic, I believe. And or it's like 89 or something. Like it's got a good score, basically, put it that way. And basically, I think a lot of the reviews have effectively said there are patches coming to sort this out and stuff like that. And also it's on Game Pass, so like you can just wait it out if you fancy it. And it's going to cost you next to nothing to play it anyway. You know, I don't think it's going to hurt the game. But it could be like a good learning experience for time management, maybe. Because I don't think like it's. You get to a point with the game where it's like you can't just keep delaying it over and over again. You have to start doing marketing campaigns. You have to start setting like, you know, retailer expectations and stuff like that. It's releasing the game seems to be like a really complicated process, and Moon sort of jumped in at the deep end in a way. You know, they're sort of like they're playing with the big boys, even though they've only made 2 games. So I don't know. I don't think it's a big deal. And
Well, I mean,
I think like
I definitely
the difference between one more thing, the difference between a 90 and a 95 on Metacritic ain't that big, really.
I mean, I definitely had people criticize me for talking about the issues I had in my review. Like, I was just like, well, like, my review is my experience with the game. I mean, what do you want me to say? That it was a perfect experience and I didn't have any issues? Like, I made sure to be like, listen, these are the things I experienced that negatively affected my thing, but if it wasn't there, this is what I would give the score. I thought I covered it pretty well. You know, and it's like, some people are like, only a 9. I'm like, what, is a 9 not good enough all of a sudden? Like, is that not high enough? Like, I said it was a freaking masterpiece. I think everybody should play it. I mean, I understand some people aren't into side-scrollers or Metroidvanias. Like, that's not everybody's bag, you know what I'm saying? And there's definitely good games, you know, like MLB The Show gets highly rated every single year. I'm not playing a baseball game. You know, I don't even like playing, like, any of the sports games. So it's like, it doesn't really matter. Like, if you're just not into something, then it's just, then you don't have to play it. But man, it's such a good game. I'm sad that I finished it already because I was looking forward to it for 5 years. Well, I mean, 5 years. That's when the first one, you know, came out in 2015. I figured they'd do a sequel, and they announced it in 2017. So we've only technically been waiting 3 years, but it's here, and I already finished it, and it's like, like, oh my, like, and I didn't burn through it either. Like, I took my time. I had like, I think it was like 95% when I actually beat the final boss. You know what I mean? So it's not like I rushed through it to beat the game. Like, I savored every moment. And it exceeded my expectations because I thought it was much better than the first and improved on it on every single way. And it's just, I really wish they just would have, you know, maybe delayed it another week so they could have fixed all the issues. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's rare that you get games delay for like a week, but it does happen. Like sometimes, like games get pulled forward a week too. Like it's random and weird. But Ori has physical copies, right?
Yes, it does.
I think that kind of changes the game a bit because I've seen like a bunch of smaller shops break the street date on Ori as well. Like there were reviews going up days before the embargo because people had gone out and bought it from like smaller shops and stuff like that. So you know, it is what it is. And I think like the physical release probably had some effect on whether or not they could delay it. I honestly don't know the criteria for like when they want to delay a game or stuff like that. It's something I want to learn more about, so I'll probably reach out to some devs and ask. But I think Ori will go down as one of the best games of this gen, personally.
Yeah.
Definitely one of the best Xbox game, if not the best Xbox game.
I mean, it's definitely going to be in my top 3 for game of the year. Like, I don't even need to think about that. The only games that have a chance of sliding in along with Ori is Last of Us Part 2, potentially Cyberpunk, Halo Infinite if it delivers, because I'm such a huge Halo fan. Maybe Ghost of Tsushima if that game's really good.
What about Resident Evil?
Well, but here's the thing about Resident Evil 3. I'm really looking forward to it, but I don't think it's going to be that much different than Resident Evil 2, where you're going to be playing it and it's going to be like, yeah, I just played this 2 years ago. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, that's fair. But isn't it tied to like a Left 4 Dead-like experience, that Project Resistance thing?
Well, the Project Resistance thing is the multiplayer, so it's like, I'm only interested in the campaign, and Resident Evil 2's campaign was much better than Resident Evil 3. And they kind of made Mr. X into Nemesis anyways. So I do wonder how that's going to change. I'm looking forward to the game, don't get me wrong. But then it's like, I didn't even mention Final Fantasy VII, Remake. That game, which, by the way, I played the demo of, Jez. I played the demo of Final Fantasy VII.
It's surprisingly good.
Wow. That demo sold me. Like, I thought about waiting. I thought about waiting until you came to Xbox. Thought about waiting until the entire franchise or all was done. I can't wait. I need to play that game day one. Like, it is so good. It is so much better than I thought it would be.
I honestly think, like, I agree with you that it's so much better than I thought it would be, because after Final Fantasy 15's combat, which I thought was garbage, and to be fair, I haven't played it since they updated it, but Final Fantasy 15 at release, I thought the combat in that game was just god awful, and I was thinking, like, if this is what they're going with for Final Fantasy 7 Remake, I ain't interested. But it's sort of similar, but massively better and updated and changed and stuff like that. So I'm pretty I actually, they sold me on the combat.
No, the combat was fun. Like,
yeah,
I
really liked it.
I had fun doing it, switching between the characters.
I think it's still not as elegant, because I keep thinking, like, they're trying to go for, like, something like Dragon Age, where it's sort of halfway between action RPG and halfway between old school tactical RPG. I still don't think it's as elegant as the way Dragon Age does it, but it felt good. Like, slashing around with the Buster Sword felt good, right?
Right. Yeah.
I felt
it did. No,
but
playing as Cloud felt great. Barrett.
Yeah.
Like, I liked how you had to keep up the attacks to be able to use your abilities and magic. I thought that was a very interesting change in dynamic. Like, you can't just sit back and just spam stuff. You actually have to be actively attacking to build up enough points to be able to spend it, Like, I thought that was really cool. And that boss fight at the end was just like, I saw a tweet from, like, a journalist that was like, there's too much stuff going on in the final boss. What am I supposed to do? It's like, they spell it out for you, man. Like, they spell it out for you. It's like, he's weak against thunder. Like, hint, hint. You're supposed to use thunder to kind of damage him, stagger him, change into the different stance, because you can change into 2 with Cloud, and just pound him. And it's just, I don't know, like, I was surprised. I don't know what to do. It's so hard. Well, play it on easy then.
A lot of people just don't read tooltips and tutorials, I find.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, they don't even see them. They don't even see them. But, like, even still, I'm like you, though. I really enjoyed it, and I do want to play it, but I still want to wait. I still want to wait to see how much of the game we're actually getting. If it's going to be like this sort of 5-hour long experience for $60, I don't think I'm gonna buy it. I think I'm gonna wait for, like, some definitive edition, because I reckon if I played Final Fantasy 15 now, after they've completely revamped the combat and made it so you can switch between the characters and added all this extra content and all this stuff that sort of fleshes out some of the dumb storylines, and they even changed the last act to update the ending, which was terrible at launch, or not the ending, but, like, the story just falls apart in Final Fantasy 15 towards the end. And I kind of feel like I want to wait for a definitive edition before I jump in. And not only then, but it'll also be on PC by then, and also be on Xbox by then.
Hopefully.
So
yeah,
I won't have to plug my PlayStation in.
So DamnGod75 says, you wasting your money, Rand, because it's only one chapter, no more than 25 to 30 hours. It's incomplete. You'll be waiting a year for the next. I'll wait. Here's the best thing about this.
30 hours?
I ain't wasting my money on it. You want to know why? Because I'm getting it for free. So that just sealed it for me. I'm playing it because it's going to be free, baby. Because Horizon Zero Dawn's coming to PC, which we're going to talk about in a few. I bet somebody, if you guys recall, when I originally said Horizon was going to come to PC, even though I DM'd him when he was doubting me, I'm like, listen, I know it's happening. You don't need to bet me. Like, it's happening. Just wait for it. And he's like, let's bet. So I got it for free because we bet, hey, if it's announced before Final Fantasy releases, loser has to pay for the other person's Final Fantasy. So it was announced, and Final Fantasy ain't out yet, so free game for me. You know what? I should have. I should have been like, let's make it interesting. Let's make it Final Fantasy VII, Ghost of Tsushima, and Last of Us. I could have gotten all three of my PlayStation games paid for by that. But I did luck out on that because they did announce it yesterday, and that was the original release date of Final Fantasy VII. I did luck out by them delaying it a month. So yeah, that's I'm really looking forward to Final Fantasy VII and Ori 2. I mean, we can't heap enough praise on that game. So you guys should play it if you're into Metroidvanias. Whether you want to buy it for $30 or play it through Game Pass, let's do yourself a favor and play through that game because it's fantastic. Any other games you want to talk about, Jez? You want to go into E3 being canceled and Xbox holding the digital event and Horizon Zero Dawn and all this stuff? You want to
the game that I want to talk about, I can't talk about.
Oh yeah.
So you'll have to tune in next week to find out about the mysterious game I've been playing that I can't stop playing at the moment. But this mysterious game that I've been playing is awesome, and that's the only game I've been playing this week. Ori and the mysterious game I can't talk about. So there is that. We can move on if you fancy, because I presume all you've been playing is Ori and maybe secret sessions on PUBG in the middle of the night when no one's watching.
I have not played any PUBG. I don't have PUBG installed on my Xbox anymore. It's done. They're all playing the new Call of Duty Warzone, which we have a separate topic about. So look, but you know what? Let's dive into the juicy one. Let's dive right into E3 2020 canceled, Jez. How does that make you feel, man? How does that make you feel that the virus that shall not be named is just wrecking civilization as we know it? Toilet paper is the most highly sought after currency available. Like, as you tweeted, did anybody predict that in any of the post-apocalyptic stories that toilet paper would be the most sought after thing, or what?
So someone replied and reminded me that you can actually trade toilet paper in State of Decay 2 for like influence. So it's interesting. I actually have 60 rolls of toilet paper right now.
Damn.
I'm one of them, Rand. I'm stocking up, man. I ain't taking any chances with toilet paper. If like everyone's like laughing at people stocking up on toilet paper right now, but I swear to God, if you're the last man standing without any toilet paper when shit hits the literal fan, I ain't gonna be that guy. I ain't gonna be that guy, man. So I got my toilet paper under lock and key, and it's safe. So, but anyway. I digress. The virus that shall not be named has killed E3 2020. Obviously, the health of the attendees and stuff has to come first. Part of me wonders if this is going to end up being a premature sort of thing, because China's announced that they've sort of got the virus under control now, which makes me think like maybe in like 4 weeks, the rest of the world will have things under control. I don't know.
Yeah, but Italy's like completely quarantined themselves. Yeah,
but so did China for a while.
But I don't know. I think this is something that had to happen. I mean, I saw today that like I think it was like the governor of California or maybe it was the mayor like outlawed or banned public gatherings of more than I think it was in San Fran of like 1,000 people. So like the Golden State Warriors are going to play in an empty arena. With all this stuff.
Seattle's done the same thing. Seattle's banned gatherings as well, which means Microsoft Build is probably going to be cancelled as well. So, obviously the health of people have to come first, and I think like part of this is just setting up E3. The fact that just the setting up of E3 is going to be so disrupted, even if the virus is sort of pans out by the summer. The setting up of E3 is going to be so disrupted. I think like they sort of like, had no choice at this point. So it sucks. As someone who has attended a lot of E3s now, It kind of sucks because it's so awesome to meet all these inspiring people who are so much smarter and more talented than you. It's like I'm a blogger and you're like making these amazing games. You know, it's just fun to be in that atmosphere. You know, with so many, you know, powerfully talented and creative people, and getting to like play a small part in, you know, getting the word out about their art is like it's such an amazing, gratifying feeling. And also like meeting all the Xbox fans and stuff. And I was kind of like gonna force you to go at some point because I think like for us to meet, it has to probably be at E3.
We already met though.
I mean, like, you know, but
I
we didn't
know.
know each other that well then.
True. And like, look, I agree with you. I agree. Like, you know, health's got to come first. I understand why people don't want to go because you know who knows what it could be like in June. And all these companies, you know, you have developers, you know, maybe trying to get builds ready that you know in a playable state. And it's like we need to hit that target, and it's like you don't even know what's going to be there. So it's like, well, you want to even bother? But for me, it's like E3's always been like a special week, once a year, where like gaming is celebrated. And sure, yeah, you got to look forward to what Xbox is doing, and I'm an Xbox channel, Xbox primarily, you know, centric. But I still have always enjoyed watching what PlayStation's gonna bring because I like their games. So it's like, oh, I get to watch that, see what Ubisoft is up to, see what EA's up to. Well, in the past, like EA's shows recently haven't been very great. You know, what Bethesda's doing. And when I was there at E3 2016, it was so cool meeting everybody in the community, like Southbound and Tim Dog and, you know, Megatron. And I really wanted to go. Maybe not, I wasn't planning on going this year, but I wanted to go next year because Xbox Fan Fest is ridiculously awesome. You meet some great people there. And I know, because I talked to Colt earlier today, like, Colt's devastated that it's not happening because he was like, he was planning on meeting and going out with, like, Sean LeBrie and all those guys, like Boom and the Iron Lords, because they had such a great time last year. Like, those memories you can't have because it's not often like everybody on Xbox Live that you know that you talk to or you interact with on Twitter can come to like a centralized location and kind of just celebrate gaming in such a positive manner outside of like obviously the trolls out there and the pieces of shit on Twitter and YouTube land, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So like that's incredibly disappointing. And now I wonder, like, the future. What's the future of E3? I mean, we assume it's going to come back, right? But when you look at it, it's like setting up E3, running a show floor, and doing all that stuff costs a lot of money. I mean, it's a significant amount of money, right? So when you think about it like that, if these publishers, like I saw that Warner Brothers Montreal's, like Jason Schreier reported today, that they were going to have their first ever press conference to announce the new Batman game, the new like Harry Potter game, the new Rocksteady game, and like now I'm never going to see that, so they're going to have to do some digital conference. So it's like, are all these publishers who need to announce their new games because they got to start the marketing cycle and got to get people excited about it, once they see that, you know, they can just do an event whenever, just like Nintendo does, and they get the same traffic that they were expecting, why bother going back to E3? So is realistically this the last E3, or last year, the last E3 that we've seen? Like, because E3 2021, if it comes back, might be completely different, with some publishers is being like, nah, we'll do our own stuff in July, or we'll do our own stuff in some other time. There's no point in going to this.
It's I've asked people who've, you know, I've only been aware of E3's existence for like the last sort of 8 to 10 years or so. Like before then, I didn't even know what E3 was. So like I asked people who are more familiar with sort of E3's history and stuff like that, and people have told me that like in years past, while E3 has never been cancelled outright, there have been years where it's been like downsized and shrunk down and then recovered and stuff like that. You know, E3 might have to change, and they might have to like do something to sort of rekindle those relationships with developers and stuff like that. And sort of try and either justify the price of exhibiting there or lower the price of exhibiting there or something like that. They need to probably change the way they do things, but I don't think E3 will die. I don't think E3 will die at all. I think like it's kind of it's still such a staple sort of thing. It's like it's just a nice thing, like you say. It's like game of Christmas, right? I see a lot of people compare it to Christmas, and I think I don't think it'll die. I think it'll be back next year, and I think like might be different and it might feel different, but I think it'll be back.
Yeah, I know. Phil loves the live crowd, and I do wonder. And we're gonna talk about this Xbox digital event, but I think some of that's gonna be missed out watching these conferences without any sort of audience reactions. But then again, I think you know what, Nintendo does pretty well for themselves with the Nintendo Direct. People get ridiculously hyped for that stuff. But yeah, it's just I didn't think this would happen. Like I was like, and obviously, I think I maybe underestimated what the virus that shall not be named was gonna do. But here we are in March, and like everything is just getting canceled. And I'm reading articles like "prepare for the worst" and stuff. Like you need to change your daily life. I'm like, man, is it is it that super serious or what? But I need to get.
So I'm laughing because like I work from home. I work from home anyway. I'm a total shut-in anyway, so. Yeah, I should be all right,
So we got Decolcus79 with the super chat. It says, J-Tech Hard 8 P-Rock. Rand was right about Horizon Zero Dawn. I mean, I knew I was right, And,
right.
I mean, whatever. J-Tech is whatever. I'm not going to mention him, but, I'm always right. I think some people think, Jez, that, like, we don't know people. We just kind of make stuff up or something.
I don't know. My track record speaks for itself, and your track record does now. So.
Spider-Man says, Sony says they won't be at E3 2 months ago, not a word on their next event. The same day E3 is canceled, Microsoft announces the next Xbox event. I like this, Microsoft. Well, Phil did say that he wanted to be more transparent, and that's something they valued. And I mean, honestly, they do have a lot more information they need to drop about Series X, the other console, Lockhart, new games that we're going to be playing with, this year, next year, and forward. So, I mean, like, Xbox wants to be loud. They want to be bold because they feel super confident in what they have and the system that they're making and the games that they're making and the services they have. And it's like they want to, like, knock on everybody's door and have everybody pay attention. Like, this isn't the Xbox of 2013, folks. This isn't the Xbox of 2017, when it was just like, hey, what do you got? Well, we got Super Lucky's Tale. And, Phantom Dust, the OG game. And it's just, like, that's it? That's what you're bringing to the dance? You just, I know, like, Scalebound was supposed to come out that year and stuff, but, like, things happen in that regard. But, yeah. LM NPO says, Sony still has announced a digital event either like Microsoft has. What's the deal? I mean, the thing with Sony is they don't really have to do anything. As we saw with the Instagram, likes on the logo, people are going to go crazy for whatever Sony does whenever they do it. So Microsoft needs to really take advantage of this time when Sony's not doing anything, when they're not saying anything. So, because at some point, Sony's going to want to talk about their next console and the games they're making, and that's all you're going to hear about on social media, and all you're going to see on YouTube is Horizon Zero Dawn 2 trailer, and God of War 2 teaser, and a Spider-Man teaser, and all that stuff, right? So it doesn't really matter, in my opinion, at least, that they're silent right now, because whenever they're going to talk, people are going to pay attention. I mean, they still have Last of Us 2 to launch. That's a huge game. Do you want to talk about the PlayStation in a way and say how much better that system is when they're about to play Last of Us, or you want to wait until Last of Us is out? So, I mean, I don't think I don't know. I mean, I don't think we're going to see anything from PlayStation this month. I mean, I guess it's possible we might hear something at the end of March, but even still, it's like April's going to come, and if you're afraid of any sort of gatherings, do you do a press event? Because that was the one thing with press events was you could invite the press, you can show off the games, and then maybe if the console's ready or dev kits, you can have them play some games. Now you're not going to have that, and what do you do? So,
Well,
you just do a digital event?
I was invited to a preview event for an upcoming game recently, but our parent company has said don't travel unless it's, you know, critical or personal or important, you know. So like I said to this game company, is there any chance that I could do something remotely on your game? And they provided a build for PC that I could test and preview. So like that happens quite a lot. Is that if the game's on PC, they'll give you like the demo build that they made for E3 or the demo build that they've made for GDC, and they'll let you play it if it's on PC. They like to do it. They like to do it in their studio because there can be PR people around to set a narrative and to try and sort of, you know, be like, oh, and jump in and say, oh, that bug will be fixed. Do you know what I mean? Like they like to supervise these events, but it's not impossible to preview a game remotely using PC builds. So I think like one of the things this whole virus that shall not be named thing is going to produce is a sort of a broad realization that a lot of things can be done over the internet. Like our entire company works remotely and we have like no overheads. We don't have to rent any office space. We don't have to like have company cars and stuff like that. We all work from home and we have done for years. And that's like one of the reasons why our companies like became so valuable, is that we didn't have these overheads like some other game sites do where they rent office space and stuff like that. And I think a lot of companies are going to realize that, you know, we can work from home on this. And, you know, Ori 2 and Moon Studios, 80 of those devs were working from home and they were using like an online pipeline to, you know, do code commits and stuff to the game. Like a lot of the workers are working from home, and that reduced Moon Studios overheads too. So it could have an impact on the culture. You know, this whole virus thing could have an impact on the way a lot of jobs are handled, the way it's gonna create a realization that like a Nintendo Direct style stuff is a good way to go for a lot of publishers. They're going to realize we don't need to have these big press events. We can just do everything remotely, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So it could have an impact on the way things are moving forward. It's interesting times, you know. I don't know. I don't know, man.
I would agree. I agree. Dukeless wants to know, hey, we know you know which is the next PlayStation game on PC. I don't know for sure. I've heard 2 mentioned, but I'm not going to say what they are because it wasn't like... Well, since we're talking about Horizon Zero Dawn, I guess we'll talk about it now. I've heard 2 games are next, but I don't know what... Here's the thing with Horizon Zero Dawn. I heard from so many people that it was basically a shoo-in. It was like one of the industry's worst kept secrets, but yet everybody kept on... All the PlayStation fanboys were like, it's impossible. It's impossible! Sony would never devalue their console in such a way. Right? Because that's what a lot of them are saying. Like, this devalues the console. I'm like, okay, sure it does. So, I was confident that that Horizon Zero Dawn was going to PlayStation, PC natively. Not through PlayStation Now, just because of how many people told me it was happening. And it was like... a lot of people. And I only heard about a couple other games, and it wasn't from many people, so I was like, okay, I mean, they make sense, but I'm not going to even bother mentioning them because I'm not really sure. But I will say, did you read Herman Hels's interview where this was all announced, Jez, by the way?
I didn't know, but
hold on, let me bring this up really quick. But while I'm looking for this, Jez, can you gonna, now that it's coming to PC? I know you have it on. I mean, I know you have a PlayStation, but are you interested in playing this on the Pro at all, or on PC instead? Like, does Horizon Zero Dawn interest you at all?
I don't know, man. Like, I like the aesthetic, but I don't know. I've kind of got like open world fatigue in a way.
Yeah, I had that too when I originally tried playing that game. When it first came out, I really had bad, like severe, open world fatigue, and I just couldn't get into it, so I stopped it. But I definitely want to come back to the game. You know what I mean? Let's see here.
Yeah, and honestly, my PC isn't like I got a RTX 2060, but it's not like the most amazing chip for playing 3D games. Like, it's fine for things like World of Warcraft and strategy games and, side scrollers and stuff like that. But for a game like Horizon Zero Dawn, which looks great, I'd probably want to play it on something more powerful.
Right, yeah. So in his interview, they basically said, hey, speaking of experimentation, there have been rumors that Horizon Zero Dawn Complete Edition might be coming to the PC. Can you confirm or deny that? I find it funny that it's the PlayStation blog asking Herman Holtz, like, hey, the PlayStation blog writer's like, we've heard rumors. Like, come on. But yeah, he goes, yeah, I can confirm that Horizon Zero Dawn is coming to PC this summer. There'll be more information coming from Guerrilla, blah, 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 blah. And he goes, the PlayStation blog goes, PlayStation no stranger to publishing titles on PC, but Horizon Zero Dawn is one of the largest games to make that leap. Is there anything you would say to PlayStation fans? What does it mean for the future? So he goes, sure. I think it's important that we stay open to the new ideas of how to introduce more people to PlayStation, and I agree. You might be able to make new fans, because I think most of the time, like PC gamers they're just PC gamers. They're not really going to spend the money to buy the console, but there's always the chance that some might. And he goes on to say, and show people what they may have been missing out on, like Horizon Zero Dawn 2. Like, hey, here's Horizon Zero Dawn at a blistering 60 frames, 4K, looking ridiculous. And oh, by the way, the sequel's going to be on PlayStation 5 only. Maybe we could entice some of these guys to, buy a PlayStation. And considering the PlayStation 5 is going to be a powerful system, potentially, it's not like you're going from your PC where you're playing at 60 frames and all this stuff, then you go to the console, which, you're playing at 30, and it's not as optimized, so it's like the PlayStation 5 is going to be a much better experience for a lot of people. And then he goes on to say...
It's kind of like... Sorry, go on.
Well, it's funny because this is where, I don't know, it's kind of just really gets into some PR stuff here. And to maybe put a few minds at ease... Releasing one first-party AAA title to PC doesn't necessarily mean that every game now will come to PC. In my mind, Horizon Zero Dawn was just a great fit in this particular instance. We don't have plans for day-and-date PC releases, and we remain 100% committed to dedicated hardware. Now, he says a lot in that short little paragraph there. And it's funny because... So when I first read it, I get my first thought was, okay, he needs to assure his very fickle PlayStation fans that it's okay. I mean, you saw the people freaking out, right? You saw some of those Twitter people going crazy about this, where they're like, let me just put your minds at ease. And just releasing just this one first-party AAA game doesn't mean that every game's going to come to PC. Okay? I mean, more games are coming to PC, right? I mean, you understand that. Now, he's saying not all of them will, but more will, right? And then he says that they don't have plans for day-and-date releases. Not yet, at least. And they're committed to dedicated hardware. Well, no shit. So's Xbox. Like, it really is just a bunch of just PR fluff. Because here's the thing. Right now... Today, March 2020, they don't have plans for day-and-date releases. But you know what they didn't have plans for 3 years ago? Putting their big games on PC. Just like Jim Ryan when he said, hey, plans change. We didn't want to put our big games on the PlayStation Now, but plans change, and now we're going to do it on a 3-month, rotating thing years later. But this he doesn't say it'll never happen. He just says we don't have plans right now for it. I'm telling you, this is my prediction. I think by the end of next generation, all of PlayStation's exclusives will be day one into whatever form of subscription thing they're going to be in. And I don't know if they'll ever do day and date, but I think they'll get really close to it. I think they'll get extremely close to it. I'm not saying like Horizon Zero Dawn 3 or whatever will be day and date on the PC, but I don't think you're looking at also a 3-year wait. I think that what he's basically doing here, and what they've been doing, is they're basically changing what you expect of PlayStation slowly, drip feed by drip feed. Oh, no exclusives in the PlayStation Now. Suddenly the exclusives are there, but they're only timed, right? Eventually, they'll be in the PlayStation Now service much faster than they've ever been, and it'll eventually just happen where it's like, hey, it's day and date, and it's such a great thing. Same thing here. Oh, it's just Horizon Zero Dawn now. You know, it's just one game. Don't worry about it. And then it'll be another game, and then it'll be another game, and then it'll be another game, and then soon it won't be 3 years, maybe it'll be 2 years. And then it won't be 2 years, maybe it'll be 1 year. And they're just slowly just changing how people perceive PlayStation, one little change at a time. I mean, I think all their games are coming to PC eventually. I'm not saying all the past ones, but I think they all will. I think Last of Us 2 will be on PC 2 to 3 years later. I think Spider-Man will be on PC. I think they're going to put all their games on PC. And I think they're going to put all their future games that they make are going to be on PC at some point.
I'd agree. I mean, they're going to see that, like, it's free money. They're just leaving on the table if they don't do it. Like, Horizon Zero Dawn will probably sell really well. I reckon we'll see it, like, shoot up the Steam charts when it drops. And at the end of the day, that's money that they've got sitting there doing nothing if they don't do it, you know. And it's not like every PC gamer on the world's going to rush out and get a PlayStation just for a handful of exclusives. As much as people want to believe they'll do that, it's not the case. It kind of reminds me of what Xbox has done with Ori on the Switch, where they're sort of like, they put Ori on the Switch, and now if they win fans of Ori on the Switch and they want to play Ori 2, which I genuinely think would need to be reworked to get running properly on the Switch, considering it can barely run on the X. I think like they can win some, people over to Windows and Xbox through that way as well. But I do think there's a world where we could see Will of the Wisps on the Switch too.
I think so.
In one there. Because Ori's still in the top sales charts on the Switch last time I checked, I believe. And that's got to be like a decent amount of money for Microsoft. And I'm sure we'll see Will of the Wisps hit Switch eventually as well.
I think also this is just what the future of gaming is going to be like. It's just going to look, he has to say that, right? Because this is the new avenue they're going to. Horizon Zero Dawn, it's $10. It's not really making any money. Sony wants to explore the PC market because I think there's a significant amount of data there that says like it really doesn't affect hardware sales. Like the reason Xbox doesn't sell isn't necessarily because their exclusives are on, PC day and date. It's because a lot of up until recently their games haven't been that great, and quite frankly, I don't think they've really escaped the stigma that kind of dogged them most of the generation. I mean, for a while there, you could go into GameStop and people were like, Xbox doesn't play used games. That whole negative stuff really kind of stuck with them for the entire gen, and that's why, if the games were good and if they were plentiful, I think they would have sold just fine. I don't really think there's a lot of crossover much between PC and Xbox, or PC and console regardless. So Sony's doing a new business strategy. They see the subscription stuff working. It's like, we need to check that out, but we can't do it all right away like Xbox did. So it's like we need to kind of do it step by step. So of course you're gonna say, hey, we're still doing dedicated hardware and we're still we're gonna be making quality exclusives. Well, of course, you are gonna be selling a PlayStation 5 at the end of this year, and I want to assure my fan. Yeah, of course you do. I mean, I get it, but in 7 years from now, when the games are like the next Uncharted games coming to PC a year out and launching in day one in PS Now or whatever, people are going to look back at the interview, but you said this. But the thing is, plans change all the time. All the time. I mean, you think Sony planned in 2013 when this started that they would be doing crossplay with Microsoft? No. That they would be opening PlayStation Network to Xbox Live and Minecraft? No. That MLB The Show would be going multi-platform on the Switch and Xbox One? No. And now, putting their own first-party games on PC and then putting their games in subscription, you think Sony had planned that out at the beginning of this gen? Of course they didn't. Those thoughts probably never entered into their head. But plans always change. Business models change. Consumer buying habits change. Everything changes. You got to change with the time. So,
and the thing is, 99% of PlayStation owners don't even know that iCloud exists. They don't even know about how Horizon Zero Dawn's going to PC. It's just the microcosm of hardcore fanboys that get upset. Some of the tweets about Horizon Zero Dawn hitting PC was so funny, man.
That's the thing.
Dude screaming and smashing things up PlayStation is doomed. Come on, man.
PlayStation is going to be just fine. Those guys screaming that Sony needs to listen to me and I'll never do. If you left, they wouldn't care. And most of the people, the vast majority of people on PlayStation, number one, don't care about Horizon Zero Dawn anyways. And number two, they don't even know about this because they don't care because it's not that big of a deal. They're there to play on PlayStation because they want to play Fortnite with their friends, or they want to play Call of Duty with their buddies, or they want to get some games of Madden. It's just the most popular console. That's it. But when you tell these people that, they get upset. My exclusives. Yeah, you love your exclusives. We all love the exclusives because they're quality, but just because you like them doesn't mean everybody else does, and that's the reason why PlayStation's winning. It's such... I don't know. People sometimes can't see the forest for the trees. Shout out to the Grounded Gamer Jay Fonz for the super chat. Thank you, buddy. He says, I think it'll get to the point where all the games will go to PC natively through PS Now eventually. Very similar to what Microsoft is doing with Game Pass. I mean, I do think all their games will go to PC. I don't think it'll do day and date, but I do think their games will be in a subscription service by the end of the generation, day one. Sin Vendetta says, so Rand, what you're saying is there hope of Bloodborne coming to Xbox? I don't think Bloodborne... it's interesting that there was a report that there is no Bloodborne 2 in development. I wonder if that was just a one-off with them. I mean, that game sold well, was highly rated. You would think Sony and From Software would want to hook up again to do a Bloodborne 2, but, they're busy. They got Elden Ring coming and maybe something else, but... and Gunstar, thanks for the support, but he says, when Ori came to Switch, I drowned my kittens. Yeah. I don't know. It's just, now that this has been breached, very much like Quantum Break, coming to PC, if you remember, and then some Xbox fans really took that, harsh. It's like, oh, no, my Xbox, oh my god, it's lost its value, it's got no exclusives anymore. People will get over it. If you want to play on PC, go ahead. I mean, if you want to play on PC and wait for the games, go ahead. I mean, do what you want. I can play whatever I want, wherever I want, right? I could play I think my PC is better than an Xbox One X, but you won't ever see me playing on the PC. I just don't want to play on the PC. I'll just play on my console. It's not people just want to play where they want to play at. I don't understand.
I remember when Quantum Break was launched day and date on PC, and people freaked out then. Xbox fans freaked out then. So let's not forget that Xbox fans were freaking out about this too back in the day.
Oh, I know.
It's just that Xbox fans have had a long time to just accept it, And at least in theory, if a game's coming to PC, it's going to mean more money to invest in the sequel. It's not like Phil puts a PC game. It's not like Phil put Quantum Break on PC so he could take the money and buy an extra yacht for himself or something. It's how they can reinvest it in the business. It's not like that. It's not corporate greed. It's corporate growth. Like maybe a bit greed, but it's corporate growth, and it's like they're literally. It's bad business to not do it because you're leaving money on the table. That's the ultimate thing. It's not. There's nothing bad about it. Nothing bad about it. Anyone who thinks there's something bad about it is just weird. They're just weird, man.
Yeah, I mean,
and and
it's just getting legit upset about it is just it's just mind blowing to me. It's number one, it's video games. None of this stuff is serious. It's a great hobby. Everybody uses it to escape from their real life, the problems they may have, because it's great hanging with your buddies, chatting it up, playing those great experiences. But like, man, if you're you see that tweet, Horizon coming to PC or Quantum Break coming to PC and Xbox games coming, and that legit makes you feel a certain way inside, you probably need to reprioritize what's going on. Like, you know what I'm saying there? Like, because I've seen some weird stuff from, I don't even want to mention his name, where I look at that stuff and I'm like, yo, someone should send this dude's tweets to the FBI before somebody gets hurt. Like, it's frightening. It's frightening of how, like, this console war really affects people emotionally. It's a plastic toy that these companies sell to us, and like, it means nothing more to that. But yet people's whole identities and lives revolve around it. Like, yeah, sure, I like talking about Xbox, and I have a YouTube channel, or I talk about Xbox and the games I play and what's going on here. But if you think it emotionally affects anything I do, like, you're kidding yourself. But every single day, I'm amazed by the comments I get, or from what I see on Twitter, and it's just like, man, some people really care too much about all this stuff, and it's kind of sad. And no wonder a lot of, like, the real world views gamers as just like, virgins who live in their parents' basements, who's never talked to people, because that's what it really looks like. I see some of these tweets from people, and I didn't know anything about gaming. You'd be looking at them like, these people are fucking weird, Like, what is this? What all gamers are like, right? Dead Captain James says, why are gamers generally so angry all the time, Rand? Most of the stuff online is negative all the time. I think it's because social media is just a negative place.
No, the truth is, happy people, they just get on with it. It's not like people come on Twitter and say, like, I'm so happy today. People, like, get negative on Twitter and stuff because they want to project that they need support and validation. You don't need, if you're happy and content, you don't need validation in your happiness. But if you're unhappy, oh boy, you need some validation, and like, desperately, and you need support. You need your support network. That's why a lot of, like, these fanboys, they often do, like, this thing where they quote tweet you because they want to get all their their other little insecure buddies to come in and pile on you. Yep. Like, because they're insecure and they need validation, and they're unhappy people. The worst is when they make a tweet and they tag in like 50 of their friends to come attack you or whatever. And I never do that. I just always just reply to the person. But then it's like when they do the quote retweet, I'm like, man, I just find that stuff just super corny. That's why I just don't do it, But yeah, like, social media is just negative. Like just saying, like, if you hate something and you express your hatred for it or your negativity for it, other people will find you and you'll rally to you. It's just what it is. Like, people, like, if you're positive and if you're really happy about something, like, most people just aren't going to say anything, Like, so that's why it's really cool every time I read the comment section of people saying, like, oh, I really liked your video, because most people don't even take the time out of their day to write something. So and most people write something negative, but it's like really cool when you get a message, be like, hey, I really enjoyed your content or your video and all that stuff. Because most of the time, I love that.
Yeah, it really means the world to me, because it's like, oh, I'm doing something really cool. People really like what I'm doing here. But then you get the other people, And it's just like, man, you suck, and Xbox sucks, and PlayStation sucks, and this sucks, and you suck, and woke, and all this stuff. And it's that's why I don't even tweet that much, because like I get on Twitter and I'll see this stuff, and it's just like, how do people do this? Like, I think I have 20,000 tweets, and I said this to Tim the other day. I'm like, Tim has like 300,000 tweets or whatever he has. I'm like, how do you do it? How do you?
How many tweets do I have? I got tens of thousands of tweets.
You have 70,000 tweets, Jez. I have 20,000.
It's like the thing is, man, I have thousands.
313,000 tweets for my brother Tim Dog. Like, that is a lot of tweets, man.
The thing about Twitter is you've just got to block everyone. Like, I've got thousands of people blocked, and basically the only people left on my Twitter are positive people, and who want to talk about games, or they say positive things, or they talk about interesting stuff. Like, all the negative fanboys are either muted or just blocked. And a lot of the time, like, if a fanboy jumps into my mentions and I see the replies and I just see what kind of people there are, I'll block all of them as well. Because I don't need that in my life. Like, Twitter's fun to use when you're talking to fun people. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, like, there are a lot of positive people out there and a lot of positive gamers out there. You just sort of like have to find them, because a lot of them they're just gaming on, they're just getting their game on. They ain't on Twitter crying into the void, like screaming that their toys aren't on exclusive anymore to their platform. It's like, man, there's so much to love about this industry. Why focus on the weird stuff? I don't know.
Yeah. Elemental Appeal says in the super chat, "Hey, Doom 64 coming to Xbox makes me want to smash my N64." Just kidding.
That's when I laughed earlier when you were talking. I read that super chat. I was like,
Dead Captain James says, "This is why I don't use social media. That is, thanks for all the great content, Rand." Well, thank you, Mr. Dead Captain James. I really appreciate that. So let's talk about the Xbox Digital event, because E3 being canceled. We knew Microsoft was going to have an event, but what do you do now? There's no E3. So Phil Spencer says, "Hey, E3 has always been an important moment for Team Xbox. Given this decision, this year we'll celebrate the next generation of gaming with the Xbox community and all who love to play via an Xbox digital event. Details and timing and more in the coming weeks." So, Jazz, when I first saw this, I was like, we kind of knew this was coming, right? But now it's like, what do you expect? Are we thinking like a Nintendo Direct where it's like it'll just be Phil in a white background talking about Series X and introducing trailers? Do they get on some stage at Redmond, like an Inside Xbox studio? And do they actually do it, film it from the Microsoft Theater and just do it in front of the stage, but not have the audience there? Like, how do you think that's going to go down?
It's I don't know. Like, I want to hope that it's not like. I mean, in a way, they could just do it just like E3 and just not have an audience, or maybe they could like have an audience of like avatars or something, like 1 versus 100. That'd be interesting. Nah, I don't know. That'd be kind of cool actually if they could do something like that. Just like have like everyone attend as their avatars or something. I don't know. They'd be kind of weird though. I don't know how they could do it. Like, I kind of hope that they do keep the E3 format just so we can have the same feeling. Like, I like watching the E3 shows. Like, I like the E3 conferences, and I like talking about them afterwards. Like, even though like last year we had a lot of criticism for Xbox's E3 last year, right?
Yes, we did.
Still, even though it wasn't the best E3, I'd still be sad if we didn't get one that was like that. Like, I still like the anticipation of like what's coming next. Like, even if like I'm finding a segment boring, it's like, what's going to be next? What's going to be next? And I hope they just keep the same format.
For me, I think it's going to be like, I don't know. I like the stage show. I like seeing people get excited for stuff. So I'm thinking it's like, how can you have the same impact of dealing with those announcements? Because it's going to be the first time you're going to be showing off Halo Infinite gameplay. And I think people are going to be surprised by it. But even Halo, okay, yeah, last 2 years they've done it. Not so much a surprise. But now you're potentially talking about the reveal of a longtime franchise coming back from the dead, Fable. And I've always thought, man, whenever they reveal Fable, right, people are going to go nuts. Sure, it's one of the worst kept secrets in the video game industry. Seems like everybody knows Playground Games is working on Fable, right? But obviously, until you see it, you don't know. And that, in my mind, I always imagined it, the trailer running, people seeing it's Fable, and you can kind of hear the excited hush going over the crowd, and then the title screen comes up Fable, and people would lose their minds. But like that's lost. If they're doing a digital event, now that announcement that I thought would have been huge, or even potentially, hey, the initiative. Oh my God, what is that? Oh, it's Perfect Dark, or some other cool announcement like Keanu Reeves coming out. Probably the best moment at E3 last year was Keanu Reeves. That moment basically doesn't exist if it's a digital event. You know, so it's like
you're right. They'll have to change the way some things are revealed, like because some things kind of only work if you've got like an audience there to pop, and if they've got like canned fake audience people there, like that'd be kind of lame. Like at E3, at some events they have like I don't know what they call them now off the top of my head, but there's basically like at some events there's like a hype man who goes around and tries to like get the crowd pumped and stuff at specific moments, just so it like watches better on TV and or on YouTube or whatever. But there's nothing like that at E3. It's like all sort of natural and all that sort of stuff. And I suppose like you couldn't do some reveals like that if there was no audience. It has like they would have to change some things, I guess.
yeah,
But
they would.
at the same time, it could lead to like deeper dives into things because if it's kind of like more of a video, people can maybe skip over what they don't want to watch, which means you could potentially have like a deeper dive into a game. Like you could probably have longer sections on maybe on stuff because like if you're trying to engage a live audience, it's a lot different. I mean, like a live audience that's like there, it's a bit different to engaging a live audience online. So like I wouldn't mind like deeper dives and stuff like that. Like the way they did the Minecraft event last year, I thought was pretty good. Like they had a pretty detailed section about Minecraft dungeons, a detailed sections about the Nether update, and then like they had some stuff for the kids and some games and some YouTubers and stuff like that. That section, which I could just completely ignore, could go and make a cup of tea during that bit, and then come back when they're talking about the games again. So I don't know. It's interesting.
It's got to suck for the people planning the event because here you are, trying to plan something, huge for the Series X launch, and you need to get people really excited about Xbox, and they haven't really announced a lot of stuff, recently. People have been waiting for the big games. Hey, we want to know what, Playground's game is, the initiative's working on, what's Obsidian doing, et cetera, and the third parties, and you just do that stage show, and people would have went crazy for certain things. But now it's like, well, do you want to do an Inside Xbox? Like, is it like XO19 was okay, but like, I don't know. Like for the big show, like I don't think an XO format and Inside Xbox is the right way to go for that. I think.
What if they had like a throwback to the original Xbox reveal and brought The Rock in and Bill Gates?
That's the thing. Yeah. So it's like I wonder. I'm just so curious on what they're gonna brainstorm for this because you could do it like a Nintendo Direct, but then people just say, "Oh, this is just a Nintendo Direct. You're just copying Nintendo." You could do.
I don't think that's such a bad thing to.
No, I mean I guess it's not a bad thing as long as you get it right. But then it's like you could do a state of play where you just run trailers, but it's like state of play. I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of just because it's just a YouTube playlist of trailers, and it's like at least it doesn't waste your time. It's like 15 minutes and it's over. So I don't know. They have to come to like some middle ground of like. We need this to make people seem like it's super important. Where I don't know where they're gonna dump everything. But then again, I guess it could like because I was also thinking about this. Like Microsoft, maybe not necessarily like this year, but in recent years, it's always been wait to E3, wait to E3, because they would be silent throughout the whole year. When they drop everything at E3, and then it would be silent the rest of the year. You know what I mean? Like they would always just like instead of having announcements spread out throughout the course of the year, like Nintendo does, it's like we're gonna make all of our announcements at E3, at least all the big ones, and that's it. You're only gonna hear about stuff at E3. And we even last year we were you know when we were talking about the new consoles, we are gonna be like, are they really just only gonna talk about the console at E3, 2019? And then we thought, man, the next time we'll hear about a console is the reveal event, sometime next year and maybe E3. But like they completely surprised us because they had a different plan. It's like, no, we're gonna talk about it a lot. So now I'm thinking it's like, well, if you're doing a digital event, do you need to do everything in one event? Or could you just spread that out throughout the year again? Like, do you need to do everything at once, or is it better to just string it along like you've been doing with Series X? I mean, you had to reveal it in December. You had Phil's article 2 weeks ago. I know on the podcast last week we teased that there would be some Xbox info this week. That's not happening. Unfortunately, that got pushed to next week. So next week, expect some Xbox news. You know what I'm saying? It's like
is this whole expect some Xbox news gonna end up being like the whole PlayStation news? Expect some news next week, or actually the week.
I mean,
actually the week.
No, you know what it is. You know what it is. I know what it is. I just don't want to say it.
I don't know for sure.
Well, I mean, who knows and knows? But I mean, you know what I'm talking about. I haven't
seen. I always say I haven't seen a document with it written on.
Sure.
I don't know for sure.
Sure, I'm saying no, like facetious, like but you know what I'm teasing here. You know at least what I think is supposed to happen.
Yeah, I know.
But I kind of like the more talkative Microsoft, the ones who isn't waiting to one day, in the year to just give you the info and then peace out. Like, deuces, we'll see you again a year from now. I like this. It was like, hey, there's something like every month you could do something. I don't know. Like, I know they get paid a lot of money to come up with this, and it'll be interesting to see like the format, how it's gonna like. Do you do it on a stage? Do you do it in front of a green screen? Is it just Phil talking, right? Or do you have other people? Is it just trailers? Do you do gameplay demos? I mean, there's a lot of questions here you have to ask. Especially, I mean, do you invite press to maybe like play some of this stuff on dev kits somewhere at the same time to release articles? I mean, it's very interesting.
That's kind of dangerous.
Yeah, it does, but those are the kind of things you got to think about. At least to some of the stuff that I've been thinking about. And okay, so there's this digital event that they're doing instead of E3. Does that affect the other event that I was thinking was happening in April? Because I was for a long time I was dead sure that there was a reveal event of some kind happening in April. Not like there was E3 and then there was something happening in April, but then the virus happened and then Microsoft sent everybody home for 3 weeks. And the toilet paper became the greatest currency in the world. And I have plans changed? Are they still doing that? What about Xbox Lockhart? Where's that system? How are you going to reveal that to customers? When are you going to reveal that? When do you talk about the price? How are you going to reveal the games? Man, like, the virus has just thrown this huge, gigantic wrench into everything. Not only what Microsoft's doing, I'm sure what Sony's doing. And all the other publishers out there who's got a bunch of games ready to go, that they need to talk about. Oh, man, crazy times. Crazy, crazy times, Jez.
It is crazy times.
What a week, man. E3 canceled, Xbox digital event. I get my vindication about Horizon Zero Dawn coming to PC. Ah, man. Free copy of Final Fantasy VII Remake. Man. Good week for me. Good week. Ori came out. I saw is now down to a 90 on Metacritic, by the way.
Ooh.
Which, I don't know.
Ooh.
Can it hold a 90? Do you think it can hold a 90, or is it going to drop down to an 89?
I don't know. Maybe it'll drop.
Maybe it'll drop.
To that dreaded 89.
You have Reggie joining GameStop? What did you think about that? What did you think about Reggie joining GameStop?
Well, we don't have GameStop here, so I don't care so much. But, you know, it's... I've actually heard GameStop's doing some pretty progressive stuff in the US. Aren't they like... Don't they have like... Is that a spider? I might have to...
You have a spider? You killing a spider, Jez?
Oh, thank God. It was just fluff.
Oh.
It was just fluff.
Okay, it was just fluff.
False alarm. Okay, so where was I? I was worried there. Spiders are scary. I've lost my train of thought around.
We'll get it back.
Well, what was I talking about?
You were talking about GameStop and Reggie.
All right, yeah. So GameStop are doing some progressive stuff. This is the kind of thing you would cut out if we're doing this podcast professionally. That's the kind of thing you would cut out from the final thing before you uploaded it. Unfortunately, we do this podcast live, so you have to deal with all the mistakes. But yeah, GameStop's like doing some pretty cool stuff in the US. Aren't they like trying to like pivot to like a sort of almost internet cafe style? Like you can go in there and buy a coffee now and stuff like that.
I mean,
have you seen
kind of some of that stuff. Yeah, I just don't see how GameStop survives like for long. With everybody moving to digital, I just don't see how they make it at like 2 more years. I mean, I hope Reggie got his paycheck. I don't know.
Well, I don't know. Maybe you can turn it around. You know, it's weird the way things go out and come back into fashion. Like vinyl records outsell CDs now, apparently, or have better revenue or something. Like vinyl came back, basically. Who would have predicted that? So, like, who knows? And gamer cafes. There's like a gaming cafe in my town in England, which is actually doing pretty well. There's always people in there. It's not like part of a chain. It's like independent and stuff like that. But people go in there, you know, play card games and play games, and there's PCs set up and they can try things. You know, Xbox Game Pass would be really good. Like, what if they could do like a business to business Xbox Game Pass, and they can be like, sell a Xbox Game Pass in like to a business, and they can like set up like kiosks and play any game they want on Xbox Game Pass. Microsoft, hire me, Microsoft. Look, my ideas are amazing.
Well, didn't they just announce something with Project xCloud where like trailers would start playing or the game would start loading in the background? So if you watched the trailer, it would just play. But they should do something like that with Game Pass. Load it up and it's like, here's a bunch of games on Game Pass, and you kind of just scroll through it, and then you like, oh, this is the one that you're doing. And speaking of like xCloud, what I have to ask you this because I don't know, and I see all these websites reporting it. So Microsoft's GDC stuff is next week, right? They're doing live streams of their planned events that they were supposed to do at GDC. And one of them is all these people have been talking about is the one titled Xbox Series X and Project xCloud live stream called The New Chapter in Gaming. What exactly do you think that's going to be about, Jez?
It's hard to say. Now, one thing they have sort of teased in interviews is that the Xbox Series X is designed around being a server. So, like, even though the Xbox... Do you remember back in the day how Major Nelson used to say that the Xbox One was like a 10-year plan? It has evolved quite a lot over the course of its life.
Yeah, so
but like
the dashboard has to.
Oh god, yeah. The dashboard has changed a lot. And not only that, but the features and the focus of the console has changed a lot. And now we can basically set up our consoles as personal game streaming servers from home. But they're not designed for doing that, really. Whereas the Xbox Series X is designed with that in mind. Like the reason when you're trying to load an xCloud game, it can take anywhere up to 40 seconds. That's because it's running off an Xbox One and it's spinning up those servers, and it takes a long time because the Xbox One is slow, whereas Xbox Series X is designed with all those scenarios in mind. So like the SSD is super fast, and it will deliver streaming games from your Xbox Series X, sorry, not S. That's not a thing yet. The Xbox Series X, it'll deliver them more quickly to you. So it's things like that. The way that they've optimized, or they're optimizing streaming games using the hardware on the Series X. So, like, God knows what kind of magic tricks they got up their sleeve to make that a reality. Like, there's all kinds of things that could be on the cards. But GDC is usually like a developer focused thing. Like, I'm kind of sad that they're doing all this stuff publicly, because what I got some of my juiciest leaks from these GDC sessions, because previously they were behind closed doors, but now they're just gonna broadcast them to everyone. How can I leak something if it's public? Xbox, I can't leak it because it's going to be public. So, but these, like, I do have like a bunch of GDC sessions, and I've watched like hours and hours of them trying to like get good information. A lot of them are just sort of like super highly technical stuff about like shaders and stuff like that just goes completely over my head. Like hours and hours talking about shaders, and I just don't get it. But like every now and then you get like snippets of really juicy information. But I suppose if they're going to do this publicly, it's going to be a bit different, isn't it? So, I don't know. I would hope that they keep it developer-oriented like they do with Build. Like, back in the day, Build used to be this marketing event, but now they redoubled it back on developers. I do hope they keep it developer-oriented just for the, the developers and stuff like that. But, I think there'll be a lot of cool information in there. Just don't expect it to be like a marketing event. It's going to be aimed for developers, right?
Yeah. I don't know. Like that's the thing. Like all these websites were saying it's like, oh, it's some huge event happening or something, and I was like, isn't it they were just going to do this at GDC? Now it's just a live stream. It's like, I'm sure there'll be maybe some new information, but I didn't think it was going to be like I was surprised when they started talking about it. I was just like, that's weird. Like, I don't know. It's Series X. I want to know everything about these consoles now. I want to know what Lockhart is, and I want to know what the games are. Microsoft, can you just... I need to DM Phil and just be like, can you just tell me what game's coming out with Series X?
There are two things I really want to know more than anything right now. A, is Hellblade 2 more of a sort of traditional game and with more combat and more systems? Because like I liked Hellblade 1, but it still falls very close into that sort of walking simulator category for me. I want it to be more of a game, So I'm hoping... it's fine if they want to make it like a sort of experience like the first game, fine. It's their art, that's fine. But I personally hope it's a bit more, like a game. I also want to know if State of Decay 3 is AAA, like with like, do you know what I mean? When I say AAA, like it's got all the
well, they said State of Decay 2 is AAA, Jazz. So
yeah, you know what I mean. Like it's got like it ships with really cool animations, and it's got like more polished systems and stuff like that. Like the fact that like in State of Decay 2, it bugs me that when you climb up to like one of the towers to scout out the surrounding area, you don't even like equip binoculars or something. You just sort of like click on things with a cursor. Just bugs me. And I hope it has a fishing system. But those are the things I want to know. I want to know more about the games that we know coming. I also want to know is Fable going to be like this sort of throwback to the originals? Is it going to be like kind of comedic? They have to keep those elements. But I see a lot of people hoping that it's like a darker take on the universe. Do you know what I mean? Like, what kind of art style is it going to have? Like, I want to know about all these games, man. I want to know what the initiative's working on. What is the initiative working on?
Yeah, I agree. And
that's right. There's so much we don't know.
And like when we do find out, I'm sure people will find reasons to hate everything as usual, right?
I don't care. Like I don't care what people say. Like there's so much to look forward to right now. If you're an Xbox fan, in my opinion, like I can barely keep up with everything they're doing. Like we got this week. You say what you want about Bleeding Edge, but like this week's Bleeding Edge beta with a new character, and then we've got State of Decay 2 basically remastered with new graphics engine and new features and a new open world map. We've got like Age of Empires 3 beta kicking off, and Halo Combat Evolved just dropped on Steam and went to the top of the charts. Man, it's like, God, it's just been like a blitz of information. And these are all sort of like the sort of low level stuff, right? We got like all the high level stuff we don't even know, like Hellblade 2 and your Fables and the next Forza games and stuff like that. God, man, there's a lot of stuff to look forward to.
Yeah. You know what I'm looking forward to next week though? Doom Eternal, right? And I don't know if you saw this, but
I don't know anything about Doom Eternal.
You don't know anything about Doom Eternal?
No, I don't know nothing about it.
All right. There. So Stadia's in a little trouble. Well, maybe not necessarily Stadia, but like Bethesda, because it's not true 4K on Stadia. It's going to be the same resolution and frame rate as it is on Xbox One X, even though they said it's true 4K. Stadia, Jazz. What? I mean, I know this isn't really on them, or maybe it is. And I've seen some people say it's maybe a marketing deal with Xbox is kind of holding it back, but I know it's the kind of laughing people joke about Stadia all the time, but do you still think Stadia is just never going to reach anything significant and they're just going to shut it down at some point? Or
I still like, I love hating on Stadia, man, because I hate Google. You know I hate Google.
Yes.
But the reality is, like, if I put my hate to the side for a moment, the reality is that I still don't think you can count them out. I still think like Google is spooky and they have a lot of money and they can just buy their way into the race, you know, kind of like Bloomberg did with the Democratic primaries, right? They can just sink money into that thing. And yeah, Bloomberg failed, but you know, what if he didn't? And what if Google doesn't? It's like you can't count them out. In my opinion.
You said Bloomberg, right?
Yeah.
Did I hear that?
What did I mean?
No. So what were you saying about Bloomberg?
I was just saying, like, he bought his way into the Democratic.
Oh yeah. Google can buy their way into the gaming world because they just got so much money. Did you see the whole Bloomberg could have Bloomberg spent $500 million, and if he would have given $1 million to every American, he could have changed their lives. It's like, it was the dumbest tweet I've ever seen, and MSNBC actually covered it. It was like,
really?
It was like somebody in chat will say, is like, he spent $500 million on the campaign, and there's 372 million Americans. He could have given $1 million to each American, and it would have been pocket change for him. And they legit ran. It was like Brian Williams and some lady on MSNBC talking about the tweet and be like, "Yep." And I'm sitting there and I was just like,
"Really?"
I was sitting there. I was just like, "Wait a minute, what?" I'm like,
unironically,
like, yeah, he could have. Yeah, everybody could have gotten $1 million. Like, how does that make it on the television? Like, does nobody think for a second? Like, hey, math? How do I multiply? Like. I don't know. I was dumbfounded when I saw that going around. I was like, "Ooh, man."
I need to look that up later. That is something. That is something.
Speaking of Stadia, though, yeah, I don't think you can count them out either. I did. Someone pointed out what Stadia is, or like Stadia in a way that I never really thought about before, and it was like, you look at all these different services that have been around for a while, right? And that kind of launched, but they just eventually just kind of stuck around and got better and bigger, like Facebook and Twitter and some of the social, like when it came out, it wasn't just like a juggernaut. It eventually became a juggernaut. And all these different other kind of platforms. And they said the same thing about like Stadia. Like Stadia is that. Like it launched, and that's fine, but it's just going to exist and just grow over time. And that made a little bit of sense to me, where it's just like, it's just a platform that's going to be here. It's not a platform for today or tomorrow. It's supposed to be a platform for the future. And much like Facebook, eventually, like, it'll just grow. Like, what they're basically saying is, like, these services that people use on a daily basis, they didn't start as feature rich as they did now. So it's like Stadia is just going to continue to improve and improve, where in 5 years it'll look completely different than what it is right now. And I don't know, I kind of was like, you know what, this person, they have a point. And I'm not ready to knock. I know it's like great, like, punching line jokes, like, man, Stadia, but I look at it as like, they're throwing money around. They got the studio head of Sony Santa Monica. They just built 2 new studios. Like, that's not cheap to do, right? So it's like they definitely at least think it's they're all in. But today, yeah, sure. Today, the platform, I don't know. It's got like 40 games or 30 games. Not really good, but 5 years from now, when they're actually making stuff and maybe they have more games on the service, it becomes a more viable option. Maybe there's potential there for it, but I don't know. I do think they kind of fucked up a little bit, but I don't think you can't judge it until that free version comes out. Like, if the free version comes out in a year from now, it's like worse than before. It's like, yeah, like maybe it's time to roll, like, close shop on that, right?
The tech works. The tech is good. It's like, it's just about getting those relationships in place, which take decades to develop, or like at least a decade. And this is where Microsoft and Sony have their big advantage, because they have those relationships in place. They can be like, stick your game on PlayStation Now or xCloud, and they've already got those relationships in place. Whereas like other developers will be like, well, why should we help you? Why don't you give us some money? Sort of thing. Everyone is skeptical of Google getting into gaming, because Google has proven itself to be a bit of an evil company with a huge amount of sort of, shall we say, controversy behind it in recent times. So, but I still don't think you can count them out, because A, the tech works, and B, they got a lot of money. It's that simple.
Yeah, that is definitely true. Anything else you want to talk about, Jez? You want to take some questions?
We can take some questions. By the way, Rand, I did just look up that thing you talked about with MSNBC.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and like, it wasn't just MSNBC, but the guest on the show is an editor at the New York Times on the editorial board.
Jesus.
And they're a New York Times editorial board, and they're in charge of basically fact checking. And she was like, agreeing with them, and he was like, yeah, when I read that on social media, it all became clear. It's an incredible way of putting it. And they're like, yeah, it is an incredible way of putting it. There's too much money in politics.
Yeah, I mean, that's not a very good segment when you'd be like, well, Bloomberg could have gave everybody $1.50, and that would have been great. But yeah, so that's the podcast for today. Obviously, we're gonna take some questions, so if you guys want to ask us something, make sure you put your question in chat. We appreciate everyone being here, all the support in the super chats. Greatly appreciated. Hi, if you're listening to this later on the podcast app, we'll have that up. Whenever tomorrow or whatever, I'll download the episode, send it to Jez, and he'll take care of that. So if you like the episode, subscribe, all that stuff, and yeah, thank you for being here. Gunstar wants to know, Jez, without betraying any confidence, can we expect any new studio acquisitions?
I honestly don't know. I don't know for sure, but all I can say is what the most recent thing that they've said is that they're still on the lookout. But like, it has to be, there's like a bunch of factors that have to feed into that. For example, the company has to have the same sort of culture. They have to be sort of in a country where Microsoft actually exists for tax purposes. There's like a bunch of things that sort of have to coalesce to make that work. And I still
think they get another studio. I
I think this year, if I was to purely guess, I would say we will see at least one more this year.
Yeah, I think so. Let's see what else we got here. We got one from Dinero Primero. What's up, buddy? He says, question: when should Xbox have their digital event? Same time as E3, earlier or later in the summer? That's another good question. When to have the event? The same Sunday that you've been doing the E3 conference at 9 a.m. or 11 a.m. that you would do it? Do you want to do it during the week on a Tuesday now at like 3 p.m.? Like, when's the best time to do that? And, you know, like, that's a good question. So, I don't know. I think it would probably still be on around the same time because those things take time to finalize. Trailers have to get made. Well, they don't really have to put together demos anymore, right? So my guess is it would probably be around the same time you would expect their show anyways. Do you agree, Jez? Or do you think it'd be different?
Sorry, can you repeat that last part?
When should Xbox have their digital event? Same time as E3?
Oh yeah.
Earlier or later?
They should have it at the same time.
The same time? Yeah.
I think I would personally want them to keep it as E3 as possible because that's what people want, right?
Thaneros wants to say, hey, Jez, is the game you can't talk about a new game or old game?
Old game? No, it's a new game.
It'd be a new game. If it was an old game, Jez could definitely talk about it. I don't see why that would be an issue whatsoever. Let's see here. Let's see. PDD says, hey, what do you guys know about Compulsion's new game? I mean, other than it being third person, not much, really. That's kind of one of those... it's kind of one of those wild cards. I have my doubts about that studio. I've said this before. But if they can actually make something good, that's obviously would be fantastic. But other than being third person, we have no clue. Let's see here. So QV Vampire says, hey, with the recent events of the virus, should Microsoft try its hardest to launch first before Sony? Or will they play the long game? I think they should launch first. You know, like, I thought it would maybe be a good idea for them to launch in September with all the new games. And then launch, like, Lockhart later. But with the virus, you never know how that affects the supply chain. And maybe it's just not feasible to have any systems ready by September. Or maybe even by October. Hell, I mean, if the virus really picks up speed, we may not get consoles this year at all. That could still potentially happen, so I guess it's all just up in the air. Let's see what else we got here. Jesse wants to. Hey Rand, you have to stop Dealer from calling you a fraud because you're the best. Dealer's joking around. I talk to Dealer like pretty much every single day, and he knows that he's the biggest fraud around here. Not me. Let's see. Darge, what's up, Darge? He says, "Oh my God, this game story is a joke. I'm literally choking you." What? Ori? Or what game are you talking about, Darge? Carl says, hey, Rand and Jez, do you think Sony will have any games as big as Halo Infinite to launch aside the PlayStation 5, assuming Halo doesn't get delayed? As big as Halo. What? I mean, Halo's a pretty big franchise. Sure, it's not as big as it used to be. I mean, I guess it's possible Gran Turismo launches with the PlayStation 5. Would you say Gran Turismo is as big as Halo, Jez? It was at one point. I mean, it was.
Not in modern times.
Well, yeah, I guess not recently, and definitely not here in North America. But at one point, it's huge. Like, I guess, what would be bigger than Halo? God of War? Is that really bigger than Halo? Horizon? Bigger than Halo? No. Uncharted? No. I don't know. I think Halo will probably be the big game unless Sony just has a ridiculous exclusive that they bought, like Grand Theft Auto. Because you got to think of franchises that are bigger than Halo. There's not that many. So unless like Rockstar's like, yo, Grand Theft Auto is exclusive for a couple months on the PlayStation 5, then I think PlayStation's going to have a bunch of exclusives that they bought, money-hatted, timed exclusives. But I don't think they'll be on that level of Halo. But, I mean, I could be wrong. Let's see what else we got here. Aquaman says, hey, did Microsoft have a similar reputation with Google when Xbox was first released? Where they had, I'm assuming he means like Google shutting down stuff, but didn't Microsoft had that same thing? I mean, I guess, yeah, I mean, did people look at Microsoft the same way we look at Google now with gaming? Like, what are you doing in gaming?
That is true. Like, I think, like, it's similar. It's a similar situation, really, because Google got slammed with a massive antitrust bill, and then they're trying to get into gaming. And Google's antitrust issues have affected their image a lot. And also, like, the privacy stuff and the way they've been handling YouTube and, you know, all the controversy on YouTube. But Microsoft had a bunch of controversies of its own in the late 90s. And, you know, they weren't seen very favorably either. So people were probably very skeptical of what Microsoft was doing. And, you know, and still, you know, Microsoft doesn't get everything right all the time. But it's... at that level, it's all really about money, and like, if developers think that it's not worth, see, Microsoft and Sony have another advantage as well, because developers don't have to do any work to port their games to xCloud or PlayStation Now, because they just run on the same backend. Whereas, like, if a developer doesn't have like a version of their game that works well on Stadia, which is all Linux based, they have to put in the demos to get that working, or Google has to front the money to get that working. And a lot of the time, you know, it's not just about money, it's about time too. So there's like investment to do. And Google has yet, it's a chicken and egg thing. It's like Google has to prove that that investment in time, even if it's not just money, if that's investment in time and effort and energy, is that worthwhile, and can Google make it worth their while? Whereas on xCloud, developers don't have to do any work. So there's that aspect to consider as well.
Yeah. Jay Slayer wants to know if Microsoft may have bought From Software, and that's why they aren't making a Bloodborne. I don't think they're... I think Microsoft maybe wants to work with From Software, but like I don't think they I mean, I'm sure... Look, From Software is a great developer, I'm sure... But I mean, they're wholly owned by a different company. So unless that company wanted to sell like From Software, then I just can't see that happening. The Living Flame wants to know, hey Jez, how do you feel about the cybernetic dolphin in Bleeding Edge?
Man, when I saw that thing, I was just like, what the hell? That is crazy. Like, so for those who don't know, like, the Bleeding Edge revealed the final character for their game, and it's a dolphin in a fishbowl with robot spider crab legs and claws and stuff, you know. And I think it's pretty crazy and pretty out there. I think it's pretty similar to Wrecking Ball in Overwatch, really, the hamster in the mech. But it's kind of that concept taken to its extreme. It's pretty wild. I'm looking forward to trying him out. Like, I think he's playable. Meko is playable in the closed beta on the 13th. And if you're an Xbox Game Pass subscriber, you get in automatically. So,
let's see here. Captain Lester asked, "Hey Jez, when is the Xbox handheld coming out?"
Well, you know, it's an interesting thing to think about. I think like where Microsoft sees handheld gaming is on the devices you already own, like on your phones and your tablets and stuff like that. But when Microsoft starts shipping these folding PCs, these sort of almost like Nintendo 3DS devices running xCloud, some companies will come up with like good ideas for like making that work. And they'll basically like make these mini PCs that have like really low specs and can't run games natively, but they'll like run xCloud games. So, there's already PCs that do this now. The GPD Win 2, if you Google that, the GPD Win, it's like a really tiny handheld laptop, basically, with Xbox controls built into the keyboard. I don't know if you've seen this, Ram.
I have. It looks pretty cool, I will say.
Like I actually had one, and like you could run old games on it pretty well. Like I play like XCOM Enemy Unknown on it off Steam, and it worked fine. It was like 30 frames per second. I was like, it's just running off like an Intel i3 chip or whatever. Not you can't run like, you're not going to run like Hellblade 2 on it, but that's where XCloud comes in, right?
Yeah.
So. Yeah, what Coin420 says, off-brand xCloud devices calling it now. That's going to happen. It's kind of like what Sega was doing this for a while. They were licensing out the Mega Drive stuff so companies could make their own Mega Drive minis. Did you see this?
I didn't know.
There was a bunch of knockoff Mega Drive minis before Sega made their own, and they were officially licensed, I think, unless I'm getting something completely wrong. But yeah, I reckon we'll see a bunch of off-brand xCloud devices, and maybe if they work, Microsoft will make their own.
Maybe.
But in the Surface Duo ad, they showed xCloud running on it, and that was intentional, So I think we'll see that happen.
Yeah, Jesse says, "Hey, you guys heard about any independent acquisitions? We haven't yet, but we think there is one." De Niro says, "Hey, do you think Microsoft should release a timed Halo E3 playable demo at their event? Or no, because it's Series X showcase? I mean, there's a good chance a beta will be announced, but I can't imagine there'll be a playable demo for Halo. I don't think that'll happen. What else we got here? Jay wants to know, Rand, do you think if Google released a console too, they would be in a better spot? That's something interesting. If they had actually released a physical console, would they be in a better position? I don't know. It's tough. I mean, some people say like 3 is the limit: Nintendo, Xbox, and Sony. But if you then added Google with their own box, like I get the message of Stadia. It's like, hey, no console. You basically just get the controller and you can play whatever you want. So it basically solves, like, if you were to say what's the barrier to entry for someone to want to get into console gaming, it's the console. But so if you were looking to solve that, what would you do? Well, you get rid of the console. So I don't think they'd be in a better position. I think they're doing what, like, hey, like, they have their cloud servers and they're doing something that nobody else is really doing yet. But they're just not doing it, in my opinion, like, very well. Like, I think the marketing and the messaging have been pretty poor. But Xbox is like, hey, we're going to be doing that too, but we also have the local way of playing. But I guess maybe if they, I don't know. Like, the thing is, if they release the console, it's like you're going to have that's the one thing I don't understand about Stadia is, like, you're basically starting over. Like, all these people who are locked into PlayStation and Xbox, all the people who have a huge rig to play on, like, why would you suddenly be like, you know what? I'm going to start playing on Stadia and, like, re-buy the games that I already bought. Because, like,
this is why tying it into Xbox Game Pass is so smart. Because if you're a PC gamer, you might consider subscribing to Xbox Game Pass just to get xCloud and just to get those games on the go, and you wouldn't necessarily have to start over because you're getting all those games anyway, I suppose, like, the complexity comes in when, like, it's moving saves between Steam and Windows Store and stuff like that. But maybe you could just, like, use it for, like, Microsoft games like Halo and stuff, and have all those games on the go or locally. It's like you say, Google has a huge hill to climb, like a massive hill. And Microsoft's in a far better position to execute on this.
Hey, apparently, a soccer player, a football player, just got tested positive for the virus, Jazz. It's hitting sports now. Man, it's only they won't want to play in front of people anymore. That's kind of crazy.
Oh man, if it starts hitting athletes, they're gonna start canceling football matches.
Said Juventus. I don't know who Juventus is.
Yeah,
Juventus
Juventus.
confirmed Italian international defender Daniele Rugani has tested positive. Ooh,
That's Juventus. It's like they're like a major football team in Europe.
that's pretty crazy. Anyways, guys, I think that'll be it for the week. We will be back same time next week. Obviously, we won't have to wait 30 minutes because Jez knows that the clocks are now moved forward an hour. Hopefully,
Yeah, apparently it's like this for 2 more weeks, where America and England are 1 hour closer.
Yeah, so hopefully we got a lot more cool stuff to talk about next week. We appreciate everyone being here. Hope you enjoy the show if you're listening to this later on iTunes or Spotify. And keep it gaming, everyone. And yeah, we'll see you next week for some more Xbox 2. Later.
Later.